Hi Team Carv, welcome to your 20-minute intro to carving mobility. My name is Charlotte, and this session is designed to improve your ability to manage the forces felt through a turn. By improving your range of motion, we're going to be targeting the groin, the hips, the hip flexors, and if you're new to yoga as a practice, please don't worry, I'm going to give you plenty of options throughout. So worry less about what I'm doing and how it looks, and focus more on what I'm telling you, the sensations that are being created within your body at any one time. By working on our hip joint, we're able to manage the forces as we go faster and go onto steeper terrain. All you're going to need for today's practice, other than a space big enough to move in, is a yoga brick. Now, if you don't have a yoga brick like this, a hardback book or a couple of yellow pages, do they still exist, will do the job perfectly well. So give yourselves a few moments to go and grab something that will just bring the ground to you. Okay team, let's start moving. The first position I'd like you to come to is called child's pose. So you're going to take your knees a little bit wider than your hips, sit your bottom back onto your heel bones, and start to crawl your hands forwards and away from you. So you've got sensation through the length of the spine, sensation through the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Reach the hands as far forward as you can and kind of plant them down onto the floor. Don't worry too much about what the head or neck is doing, but maybe release the muscles in the back of the neck just to release some tension here. So we're going to add our breath. As we inhale, you're going to come up, bring the weight into the hands, come up into this elongated all fours shape. And as you exhale, you're going to press the knees and the hips backwards, reaching through the fingertips. So inhale, you draw the weight up and forwards, weight into the hands. Exhale, press the hips backwards, sensation through hips, knees, and ankles. 2 more. Inhale brings you up and forwards. Exhale, presses you back. Last one, deep breath in, come up and forwards, bring a little bit more weight into the hands this time. Exhale, press the hips backwards. Beautiful, walk the hands in towards the legs. And we're going to bring the knees towards each other. So rather than the knees being wider than the hips, the knees are now together. Exactly the same thing. Fold forward over the legs and reach the hands forwards. So already you're going to notice a different sensation in the hip joint, in the inner hips. And you may well feel like you can't reach the hands as far forwards. Don't worry too much, just reach away as far as you can. Hands plant down onto the ground. Bottom pressing backwards towards the heel bones. Add your breath. So again, your inhale is going to draw you up and forwards, weight into the hands, knees are together. Exhale, press the hips back towards the heel bones. Add your breath. Inhale draws you up and forwards. Now maybe with the knees together, you can start to draw the hips down towards the ground a little more. Exhale, presses the hips back towards the heel bones. You've got 2 more. Can you add your breath? Inhale, come up and forwards. Exhale, press the hips back. Last one. Inhale brings you up and forwards. And exhale, presses the hips back. Lovely. All fours, tabletop. So for this, you want to take the knees a little bit wider so they're set underneath your hips. Toes are untucked, tops of the feet are on the floor, hands spread onto the ground underneath the shoulders. A nice solid box shape. Take a check in with that. Your hands and your shoulders tend to be a little bit wider than your hips, therefore your hands should be wider than your knees on your mat. We're going to take some circles with our hips. So imagine you've got a pencil stuck in your belly button and you're drawing a circle onto the ground with that pencil. So yes, there'll be sensation through the wrists here, but I want you to focus on the sensation in the hips. Can you start to press the hips into a larger circular motion? So they come to the left, they swing backwards, they come to the right, and they swing forwards. And notice if you're rushing this movement, you might not feel much, but if you start to slow the movement down, you're going to really start to notice sensation, especially as you sway the hips left and right in the outside edges of the hip joint, the outer edges. Let's try those circles in the other direction. So come back to center, imaginary pencil in your belly button, take the circles on the mat the other way. Hips to the right, Hips draw backwards, hips to the left, hips draw forwards. See if you can explore every edge of the circle that your hips are creating. And some bits are going to feel a little more sticky than others, and that's completely normal as well. See if you can add your breath for the final two. Inhale through one half, and exhale through the other. Lovely work. Okay, gang. Coming onto our bottoms, we're going to come down to our backs. We're going to have a little play with bridge pose. So rolling down into this reclined shape. Feet flat on the floor. You want to be able to tickle your Achilles tendons with your fingertips. So your feet are quite close to your bottom, but your feet are still hip distance apart. Knees pointing up towards the sky. Hands move away from the body. So don't be tempted here to use your arms and your hands. Maybe the arms come wide into a T shape or overhead, but just ignore your arms for now. There's probably a little gap underneath your lower back at the moment. I want you to draw your lower back towards the floor. Squeeze the belly button in towards the spine. You're closing the gap between your low ribs and your hip points. Squeeze in tight and keep that nice and tight, okay? Deep breath in at the bottom. Exhale breath, press into your heel bones. Squeeze the glutes and lift the hips up towards the sky. So you're rolling up through the length of the spine, but you're not taking this into a back bend shape. You're still engaging through the midline. You're still trying to close the gap between the low ribs and the hips. It's just the bottom that is firing up here to squeeze the hips upwards. When you get to your top range, I want you to notice what your knees are doing. Now your knees are probably wanting to splay wide away from each other. Can you keep the knees tucking in, stacked over the tops of the ankles? And as you start to draw the knees inwards, you'll notice the hamstrings and the inner thighs firing up as well. Take a deep breath in at the top. Exhale, you roll back down. The hips come towards the earth. We're still engaging through the midline. Belly button squeezing towards the spine. And then release. Let's try that again. Deep breath in at the bottom. Engage midline of the body. Exhale, draw the hips towards the sky. Press down into the heel bones, roll all the way up. So you may well find that you've got a bit more space. You can come up onto the shoulder tips. But again, notice if you're finding a back bend here. Keep closing the gap between the low ribs and the hip points. Isolate this movement to the bottom, the hamstrings, the inner thighs. Can you draw the knees a little closer together at the top? If that's enough sensation, stay there. Perhaps you want a little bit more. You can start to find a pulsing motion at the very top. So you squeeze the glutes a little bit more, lift them a tiny bit higher on the inhale, and the exhale, you release them ever so slightly. Squeeze and release, squeeze and release. Let's go for 2 more breaths, whichever option you're going for. Inhale, exhale for 1. Breath in for 2. Exhale for 2. Really nice. With control, roll back down the spine. Easy as you go. Hips come towards the floor and then release. Again, another little gap appears at the lower back. The inner thighs can relax and the glutes can relax. Okay, gang, hug the knees up in towards the chest. We're gonna have a little play with internal and external rotation of the hip. Now you may well find that one of these works a lot better, a lot easier, a lot more comfortably than the other, and that's completely normal. So just hug the knees in towards the chest for a moment and give yourself a little squeeze, release any tension through the glutes and the outer hip. Maybe a little rock and roll of the knees right and left can feel quite nice, just massaging into the lower back. Left foot is going to plant down onto the floor, and you can move and shuffle the left foot a little bit further away from the bottom. The right leg is going to come to 90 degrees in the hip, 90 degrees in the knee, 90 degrees in the ankle. So you want this nice solid shape coming through your leg. Take a check in with that. You don't want to be hugging the knee too tight towards the chest. So knee stacked nicely over the hip. We're going to practice our external rotation first. So the heel of the right foot is going to start to draw to the left-hand side. The knee stays stacked over the hip. Now you're really going to start to feel this on the inside edge of your right hip, your right thigh, and it might not be much movement. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, come back to center. Inhale, right heel draws to the left. Exhale, bring it back through center. Let's try one more. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Relax the head, neck, and shoulders. Inhale, squeeze it to the left. And exhale to release. Hug the knee back into the chest. So that's a little play with active external rotation. Let's have a go with internal rotation. Now this, my friends, tends to be a little more challenging for most people, for many people, maybe not for you. I actually love a bit of internal rotation, so I'm a bit of a weirdo. Come back to that nice position, 90-degree in the hip, the knee, and the ankle joint. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. This time the right heel bone draws to the right-hand side. How far out can you get the right heel whilst keeping the knee stacked over the ankle? Ooh, yeah. Hold it there for a second more. And then bring that foot back through center. Let's add our breath to that movement. So inhale, draw the right heel bone out. Exhale, bring it back through center. This one might feel a little bit sticky. One more. Inhale, open it out. And exhale, draw it back in. Beautiful work. Hug both knees back into the chest. Give yourself a little squeeze, maybe a little rock and roll of the knees. The right leg is done. Let's have a play on left. Now again, you're going to observe differences between right and left. That's completely normal, but starting to observe these differences can be really useful because you know what you need to work on more right and left, and it may well be why one turn feels a lot nicer than the other, okay? So, right foot is flat on the floor. Start to wiggle it away from your bottom ever so slightly. The left leg comes up. And just check in, knee stacked over ankle, heel bone in line with the knee. You're gonna need to engage the core a little bit here. So that idea of sticking the lower back onto the mat, you wanna keep that nice and tight. Inhale, breath in the middle. Exhale, heel bone draws to the right. This leg's not so good for me. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, draw the left heel to the right hand side. External rotation of that left leg. One more. Inhale. Center. Exhale, draw it across. Squeeze. Can you go a little further? And release back through center. Hug the knee back into the chest. Beautiful work. Let's try our internal rotation, left side. Release the leg, hands away from the body, draw the low ribs in, deep breath in the middle. Left heel draws to the left. Ooh, inhale, bring it back through center. You're gonna feel this down the outer edge of your left hip. Exhale, draw it wide. Maybe it doesn't move so much, don't worry. Two more, inhale, center. Exhale, squeeze the left heel out. Last one, inhale, bring it in. And exhale, draw it wide. Can you take it a little further? Where can you feel this in your hips? Nice, bring it back through center. Everyone hug both knees into your chest. Maybe take the forehead to the knees, give yourself a little squeeze. Massage into your lower back. Take your hands onto the back side of your thighs, and we're gonna rock and roll up and down, just to bring ourselves all the way back to sit. Roll over the legs. Okay, all fours tabletop. If that didn't work like that, don't worry. Just get there however which way you can. That's completely fine. Don't worry too much. So we're gonna come into a low lunge shape, and this is gonna look at getting into the front of the hip flexors. So from this all fours position, you're gonna bring your right foot next to your right thumb. Now it may well be there's not enough space to get it there. That's okay, you can come onto your fingertips, you can lift the body up. Just step the right foot forwards. Right knee is stacked over the top of your right ankle, and you're gonna bend your right knee and shift the hips forwards in space. Now this, my friends, is where your bricks, your books, your props are gonna help you. You're gonna place the props down either side of your right foot. So hips move forwards in space, and that's just gonna bring the ground a little bit closer to you so you've got some space for the chest. You might not need them. You may well find you can bring your hands to the floor. This tends to be anatomy and length of joints rather than anything else, so don't worry too much about whether you need the props or not. Hips move forwards in space. So it may well be that you have to shuffle the left knee backwards. We're going for sensation in the front left hip. Sensation mainly here will be in the front left hip. Maybe that's enough. If that's enough sensation, you stay. If you'd like a little bit more, you can bring the hands up onto the leg. Chest starts to lift, increased sensation through front left hip, yeah? Maybe the hands come to the sky and you can start to lift the chest and maybe look up. Again, increasing sensation through front left hip. Now, my friends, if you're here and you're holding your breath, you're kind of defeating the object. So regress slightly, add a nice steady breath to whichever variation you're taking. Deep breath in. Exhale, soften into that right knee. Beautiful, let's have one more. Deep breath in. Exhale, soften down. Beautiful work. Bring your hands back down onto your bricks. Bring the right knee back underneath the right hip. Sit your bottom back towards your heel bones. Find that first shape we took, that child's pose, and observe. Observe the difference between right side and left side. What can you feel? Okay, all fours, tabletop. This time the left foot steps forward next to the left thumb. Do what you need to do to get it there. Wiggle the foot forward, maybe slide the right knee backwards in space. If you need the bricks, hands come onto the bricks. Bending into the left knee, hips opening, sensation through front right hip. You may have other sensations, that's okay, but main sensation, most intensity is going to be around this front right hip. If that's enough, you stay, you breathe. You'd like a little more, start to lift the chest. Hands come onto the thigh. If you'd like a little more still, hands come towards the sky. A little more still. Maybe start to lift and open. Right bottom switches on. Opening through the front side of the right hip. Add your breath wherever you are. 2 more. Inhale. Exhale, 1. Breath in for 2. Exhale for 2. Beautiful. Everyone release. Hands back down to the floor or to the bricks. Left knee underneath left hip. Child's pose. Bottom comes back to the heel bones. Hands reach away and observe. How do you feel? How do your hips feel? Perhaps a little more symmetry one side to the other. Maybe not, okay? Very, very asymmetrical as creatures, so don't worry. Okie dokes, we're coming to our feet for the final little check-in. So bring yourself to stand. Okay, so we're gonna have a little look at adduction and abduction of the hips. So that's the movement of bringing the foot towards the body, the squeezing of the hips together, and then the opening up, the leg coming away from the body, okay? So nice and simple. If you need to hold on to something, please do. This isn't a balance test, this is checking in with the hips. So hold on to something if you need to. Otherwise, the arms wide or the hands on the hips tends to work quite well as well, okay? So let's shift the weight into the left foot. Start to draw the right foot away from the floor. If you need to bend the leg here, you can do, it's absolutely fine. But if you can keep it straight, it's even better. Start to draw the right heel bone away from the body. Now what's gonna happen is, you're gonna start to topple over. I want you to see if you can sit tall here. Crown of the head continues to lift through the sky. This stays in a nice long line. And it's just this muscle here that fires up to squeeze and open and lift the hips. Yes, take a deep breath in. Exhale, release the foot. Don't drop it down, keep it lifted. Let's try that again. Slow and controlled. Inhale, lift it up. Beautiful. Exhale to release. One more. Stand tall. Inhale, lift it up. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Hold at the top. Exhale. And bring it back down through the middle. Rest the foot back down to the floor. Give the hips a little shimmy shake. So you'd have really felt that in the outside edge of the right hip, maybe into the right bottom. We're going to try a little bit of adduction. So again, taking the weight into the left foot, Balance, lift the right foot away from the floor. You're gonna squeeze the right heel over the top of the left foot. Yes, the left leg's gonna get in the way, but I want you to think about squeezing the legs together as tightly as you can. Really squeeze it in, and then release it back through center. Nice. Squeeze it across, breathe in. Squeeze, 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 and release. Nice, one more. Deep breath in, squeeze it across. And release, right foot to the floor, give the hips a shimmy shake. Other side, we're nearly there. Weight into the right foot. Left foot lifts. Inhale, open the left foot wide. Exhale, hover it away from the floor. The slower you go at the end range, the top range, the better. So inhale, lift it up. Try not to lean to the right. Exhale, lower. One side's gonna feel better than the other. That's completely normal. Last one. Deep breath in, lift it up. And exhale to release. Let's go straight to the other side. Adduction. Inhale, squeeze it across. Exhale, release. Two more. Inhale, squeeze. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Squeeze the legs together. Exhale, release. Wobbles are allowed. One more. Inhale, squeeze. And exhale to release. Good work. Feet on the floor. Give the legs a little shimmy shake. We're going to bring it back down. The final shape we're going to take to end this practice is just sitting cross-legged. Now, I'm taking a brick to sit on. It allows me to lift the hips a little higher so I can get into the hips and the knees a little easier. For some of us, this will be really far away, but don't worry, do what you can. Hands rest on top of the legs. And just close down the eyes for a moment. Just take a second to check in with how your hips feel, right and left. Where are the sensations? Where can you still feel that residual bit of movement? And we'll close with a breath. Take a nice long breath in. And a big sigh out the mouth. Thank you, everybody. Awesome work. Don't forget to come back and try this practice again. It's a practice, not a perfect. So the more you do it, the better you'll get. Till next time, take care.